Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Let's Talk here on WIN TV. I'm your host, Denise Rolark Barnes, publisher of the Washington Informer, and I'm delighted you're joining us for some enlightening conversations and inspiring news. I'm thinking that there are more of you with us today because of this rainy, gray day, which is really part of what we expect in April, right? April showers bring May flowers. So, and we are talking about this drought, that we have. So we really need this rain. So this is a time to kind of celebrate. It's Friday. Sit back, relax, and enjoy our discussion. But before we dive in to today's conversation, I want to remind you to pick up a copy of this week's Washington Informer. And I know I have one here, right here. I always like to show you a copy of the paper and one of my guests that's going to come on shortly will understand why I always show the newspaper, because we want folks to know that we are still printing the Washington Informer. We're going to continue to do that so long as we have great readers and subscribers and supporters like you that will pick up a copy and read it. But I want to let you know that this week's edition is on newsstands now, and included in this edition as well is our special issue on the 43rd Annual Washington Informer Citywide Spelling Bee. The Washington Informer Charities is the sponsor of the Spelling Bee, as well as in the District of Columbia, as well as in Prince George's County. So I will tell you a little bit more about that in a few minutes, but we have had a great, great Spelling Bee year, and I'm so excited to see so many young people in the DMV who are participating and honing those skills. They're competitively learning extraordinary words that I can hardly pronounce, and they know the language origin and can use them in all kinds of sentences and all of that. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a few minutes. But as you tune in today's show, please help us spread the word by sharing this broadcast on your social media channels. Don't forget to follow the Washington Informer on social media. Stay connected for the latest updates and engaging content that you don't want to miss. Now, let's get to today's incredible lineup of guests. First up, managing editor Micha Green will talk to the incomparable mezzo-soprano Denyce Graves. She's not only a world-renowned singer, but also the stage director for the highly anticipated play Loving versus Virginia, the story involving the case of Richard Loving, a white man, and his wife, Mildred Loving, a Black woman who in 1959 were convicted of violating Virginia's Racial Integrity Act of 1924, which criminalized marriage between people classified as white and people classified as colored. Great story, one of the stories that we can tell, and I'm so happy that Denyce Graves has decided that, this is something that she wants to take up. So she and Micha Green, our managing editor, will have a conversation a little bit further in the broadcast, and you won't want to miss that conversation as they discuss this powerful production and what inspired her to take on this role. I'm also deeply, deeply excited and honored to have Dr. Frances Murphy Draper. I call her my sister publisher in the digital studio, and she will brighten our discussion with insights from her recently published book, Prayer and Pen, The Prayers and Legacy of Carl Murphy, who was a pivotal figure as the publisher of the Afro American Newspaper from 1922 to 1967. This is sure to be an inspiring conversation that sheds light on the history and legacy of a remarkable leader, and and I'll be talking to a descendant of that remarkable leader, who in her own right is a remarkable leader, and that's Dr. Frances, and we call her Toni Murphy Draper. And finally, we're thrilled to welcome Carla Labat, president of the Washington Real Estate Brokers Association. And she's here to talk about the Building Black Wealth Summit happening on April 12th. That's tomorrow. Again, it's going to be a rainy, gray day, so it's a great day to learn about building Black wealth at this summit, which is an incredible opportunity for our community to learn and grow in the realm of real estate and wealth building. So you won't want to miss that. So as I was talking earlier about our citywide spelling bee, it will air. The DC Citywide Spelling Bee will air on the Office of Cable Television, Film, and Entertainment's DKN network on April 15th at 7 p.m. And you can access the show, I believe, online if you go to the OCTFME website. And so we would love for you to tune in on April the 15th at 7 o'clock. You're going to see a fantastic spelling bee, a speller, the winner from this spelling bee, and I know who that is, but I can't share it with you because I want you to watch it, will represent the District of Columbia in the Scripps National Spelling Bee that will take place here at the Gaylord Hotel in the latter part of May. And that speller, along with the winner of the Prince George's Spelling Bee, which we also sponsor, will both participate in that national competition. So they are our champions, and we want to root for them. But I want you to see how the DC speller got to be the national speller, to see all the great competition that took place a couple of weeks ago. But it's going to air. I can't give you any more information. So again, download the stream at www.dcenetnetwork.com. That's DCENETWORK.com. Download that and then tune in on April 15th at 7 p.m. So before we jump into our conversations with all three fantastic guests, we'll share this week's news broadcast by the talented Curtis Knowles. So stay tuned for that, and I'll be right back.
This is WIN TV News, bringing you the news that matters. The bill known as the District of Columbia Electronic Transmittal of Legislation Act seeks to alleviate the logistical and financial burdens imposed by the current process mandated under the HRA, which requires physical transmission of legislation to the Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate. This process includes a cumbersome 12-step procedure involving the printing of documents and coordination of delivery amidst stringent security and parking restrictions at the Capitol. Delegate Eleanor Norton, who introduced the bill, commented saying, quote, "Today I introduced a bill that responds to the modern age, reflecting practices that are commonplace across federal, state, and local governments." She highlighted the inefficiency and outdated nature of the current system, emphasizing that the proposed change would not alter the congressional review process, but would streamline how DC's legislation is presented to Congress. A man who smeared paint on a sculpture display at the National Gallery of Art in D.C. in April of 2023 was found guilty Monday of conspiracy to commit an offense against the United States and injure the gallery's exhibit. According to the U.S. Attorney for D.C., 55-year-old Timothy Martin of Raleigh, North Carolina, and 54-year-old Joanna Smith of Brooklyn, New York, entered the gallery with water bottles filled with paint, which they then smeared on the case and base of Edgar Degas's Little Dancer, age 14. The sculpture's materials included human hair, silk, and linen ribbon that were more than 100 years old. The pair caused more than $4,000 in damage, and the exhibit was removed from public display for 10 days for repairs. A future event space in Largo, Maryland, where you may go to see a concert or take your dog on a walk, just broke ground. The new Civic Plaza will be built in front of the Wayne K. Curry Administration Building, and the plaza will feature a plethora of items, including a playground, a mural space, a butterfly garden, a dog park, as well as an event space with a flexible lawn complete with a stage. It is the first project in the larger Blue Line Corridor project, which aims to revitalize a 5-mile stretch from Capitol Heights to Largo. Joined by former county executive and current Senator Angela Alsobrooks, county and state officials ceremonially broke ground on the project Wednesday. Alsobrooks commented saying, quote, "It's historic, and that this is the first time we've been able to get the funding from the Maryland Stadium Authority to jumpstart a project in this way."
Thank you so very much, Curtis. And so now it's my pleasure to bring on our managing editor, Micha Green, who is going to have a conversation with Denyce Graves. Micha, take it away.
Hello, everyone. Oh. Let's see. Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? I am Micha Green again, managing editor, and thank you so much, Miss Denise, for that amazing intro. I'm excited to be with another Denise, different spelling, but another DC gal. And as you all see, I'm a little underdressed today, but I'm rocking my Duke Girls Rock shirt because she's also a fellow Duke Ellington School of the Arts alumna and celebrated mezzo-soprano Denyce Graves. And before we introduce her, we have a short video of the opera that she'll be directing, which is Loving versus Virginia. And I am super excited to see what the Virginia Opera House and Denyce Graves has for us.
When you hear things, Maggie, you come to your mama, and I'll tell you all the house.
Oh, wow. Beautiful. Denyce Graves, how are you doing today?
What a lovely smile and beautiful effervescence to behold. Thank you for your beautiful spirit and for doing this story on the sharing of this world premiere of Loving versus Virginia. We are all so proud of it, and that was the beautiful Flora Hawk singing from one of the arias that happens in the second act after she has her third child, Peggy. And she is a beautiful artist too. And so I'm just delighted to be here, and I really appreciate you all doing this story.
Well, we are delighted to have you and so thankful for your incredible artistry and gifts that you've shared with us over the years, and so incredibly thankful for this amazing work that you're not doing as a director, but also with your foundation. So there's so much to talk about and so little time, but we really thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for that welcome.
Thank you. So, I guess before we even get into a little bit more about the creative process of Loving versus Virginia, tell us what drew you to this beautiful and historic piece, and particularly during such a time in the nation. Why was it important for you to hop on this project?
Thank you so much for that, Misha. It's true that the historical weight of this piece was incredibly important, but I was really drawn to the quiet power of this story, of how a simple act of love can become a catalyst for national change. And Richard and Mildred Loving were not seeking the spotlight. They were not the media darlings that they became, but they just wanted to live in peace. And it was that humility that's paired with their courage that makes this story so timeless and so deeply moving.
Well, I am so excited to see their story brought to life in this world premiere through opera. The arts are such a great way of sharing history, which we know has been, for lack of a better term, under attack here recently. And so tell us how you and these artists are navigating this time, if you will, and bring this historic piece to life, as well as the fun artistic part of being able to bring such a story to the stage, and for the first time.
For the first time, it's going to be a world premiere, and the music is gorgeous. It's written by Damian Jeter, who is native of Virginia, and Jessica Murphy Moo is the librettist. It's again a story that really changed the Constitution.
Right.
And I am so fortunate to be working with a group of artists that are who all come to this project with their full hearts and completely committed to telling of this story of love as resistance, right? And the fight for justice and the courage that ordinary people can can effectuate every day into our lives. It's a real reminder that real change can often begin in private and intimate spaces, and with people refusing to give up on what matters most to them. And that is what we see in the case of Mildred and Richard Loving. But also to work with, you just heard a little bit of Flora Hawk, to work with people like Flora Hawk and Jonathan Mitchie and, Melody, all of the beautiful people that are part of this project. We feel a great sense of honor and responsibility in the telling of this story. And, for the first time, we want to get it right. We do want to honor the lives of these extraordinary human beings, Richard and Mildred, and what they did in their lives. And so while it is in some ways a very blank canvas, the responsibility part of it feels huge. But fortunately for us, there's a lot that has been documented around this story. So we have it right there. I mean, it's perfect to go into the operatic form, because opera is an art form that can really heighten, the emotional intensity of storytelling. And so I feel like it's a perfect medium for that, for what they caused and how they changed the world. But we all come to this, everybody, and I can speak to this. I've been working with them for a few weeks now, and we've had a fair amount of workshopping that had been done previously around it, libretto workshops, several musical workshops, staging workshops around this. So we have all been living with this for a while now, and I can tell you that the level of commitment from everybody, from the Adam Turner, who is the conductor and artistic director here, all of the people on the team, on the creative team, the administrative team. There's a real sense of ownership where this story goes. I mean, oftentimes in opera, we're telling the stories of mythological creatures, or perhaps from the 17th and 18th centuries, and these were real people, and some of whom are still alive today. And so along with that comes a very different, and it's in English,
Yeah.
and is a story that has impacted all of our lives. So this feels different. It feels different going into the telling of a story like this. And we want to make sure that we've got it right. But as I've said, we've got a lot of documentation around us that helps us to tell the story.
Yeah, the archives, when you look into their court cases and things like that, I mean, it's truly incredible, and all that they had to overcome. And you talk about the artist's responsibility. What's the job of us as the audience? What's our call to action after seeing a piece like Loving versus Virginia?
Well, first of all, and I do want to encourage people to come, because it is beautiful. Oftentimes, I think with new music, people are not sort of sure what they're going to get.
Yeah. Yes. First
This
call to
is
action, come.
That's the first thing, is that you have to come and see it. And I really, really, really want to encourage people to come. It is worth your time.
Yeah.
It will change your life. It will change your heart and make you see things very, very differently. So just the story itself is really powerful. I don't want to tell people what to feel or what I think they should walk away from this piece feeling. I think that I want them to come, first of all, and to come with an open mind and open heart. And this is a story about love. It's a love story. And the powerful force that love is, and the fight really for justice and equality is an ongoing fight, right? And so I hope that the audiences are inspired by the telling of this story, and know that we still have to protect and uplift the rights of others and the freedom to be able to love whom it is that we want to love, right? And love is so incredibly needed, particularly in the times in which we find ourselves in. So I just want people to come and see, and to learn, if you don't know about this story, what these two incredibly gentle, quiet, unassuming individuals did. They did not set out to change the Constitution. They just really wanted to love each other and they wanted to live in peace. And this is a story that took 9 years to play out. It was a 9-year battle for them before it went to the U.S. Supreme Court. But they felt really convicted about what it was that they were doing, and they could have both easily have walked away from it. And in some ways, their lives would have been maybe smoother. But they refused to walk away from each other. They were completely, 100% in love with each other. And they felt that that was not the right of someone else to tell them who they could or could not love. And so they stuck to their guns. And boy, are we ever glad that they did. But that
Absolutely.
up. And it's still relevant. It's a story that's still relevant today. I mean, they married in 58, but the judgment came down in 67. But it's love and equality are still being challenged, right? So the loving story reminds us of what is at stake and when freedom is denied, and what's possible when it's reclaimed. And so
Absolutely.
that's why it's an important story now. It's incredibly relevant today still.
Ah, I
And the
love
singing, the music is gorgeous. The actors, oh my goodness, they are all so incredibly transparent and vulnerable and open, and they're a lot of fun to work with too on a daily basis. But everybody that's associated with this project is bringing their A game. Damien Jeter knocked it out of the park with the music. So did Jessica Murphy Moo on this libretto, and much of which has been taken from the original material, from the mouths of Richard and Mildred themselves,
wow.
and from the arguments in the court case. But primarily, it is a love story.
Mm. Wow. And you said thank goodness for the Lovings and their bravery, but I thank goodness for the artistic team and you who's bringing this to life. Really, it's such a great time to see this story and be reminded of the importance of love as an act of resilience and resistance in and of itself. So,
Look at that.
thank you. Now, I know we don't have a lot of time left, but I must ask you what's going on with your foundation, which I know has been doing really wonderful work. But, again, particularly at a time when arts and arts education and things like that, are on the chopping block in many places. I want to know how we can support what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Well, the first thing that all of your listeners can do is go to Facebook, go to Instagram, LinkedIn, all of those places, and like and follow us. That's the first thing that everybody can do right now. Yes, you can visit our website, the Denyce Graves Foundation. You can visit my website, thedenicegraves.com, and find out what exactly it is that we are doing. We're doing tremendous work. We just got another award for the work that we've been doing in terms of lifting into rightful prominence those great artists, some stories of which we have never heard of before, and those who have contributed greatly to our cultural fabric. We are uplifting the next generation of up and coming and artists and supporting that work. And we model a lot of what we're doing after the work of the great impresario Mary Cardwell Dawson. And Mary Cardwell Dawson wanted to be an opera singer and graduated from the New England Conservatory in 1925 and wanted to build her career as an opera singer. But in 1925, as a Black woman, that wasn't going to happen. So her response to that was, I'll create my own opera house and I'll create my own opportunity, which is what she did, not only for herself, but for so very, very many others. And we look at what she did as an impresario, as the first lady of opera. And we have modeled our 3 award-winning programs after that work. We have 3 programs called, one is, they all have the name Voices in it. One is called Shared Voices, and that's our HBCU Conservatory Exchange Program for students, for faculty, and for administration, in which we send each other into the other person's spaces with the mission of sharing together and increasing the classical canon, and entering into that canon not only the works of Mozart and Brahms and Beethoven and Schumann, but also the works of Chevalier Saint George, of Nathaniel Dedd, of William Grant Still, of Adolphus Hale Stork, right? Of Margaret Bonds, of Nathaniel, oh, I said Nathaniel Dedd. So many of now Damien Jeter, right? With Loving versus Virginia. To be able to share and to celebrate the works of all of our great American composers, no matter who they are. So that's their program. That's the Shared Voices program. The Hidden Voices program is about creating works of art that tell the stories of some of those great figures that have been lost, right? So whether that's operas, whether that's song cycles, whether it's documentaries, whether it's children's books, we do a lot of work with calendars, note cards, those kind of things that we've got in museum shops, school shops, the Metropolitan Opera shops, those kinds of places that tell those stories of those great, again, of our great heroes. And then generational voices. Generational voices is for a more accomplished young emerging artist that addresses gaps of vulnerability. So let's say that you're finished with your formal training. What happens next? Let's say you've done your bachelor's and you've done your master's and maybe even you've done a doctorate. Where do you go now? How do you bridge that gap into the world of classical music? How do you get a foot in? And so that is what that program does. And again, all of them have been award-winning programs. We're incredibly proud of them. We just got another award from National Sawdust and the American Academy of Teachers of Singing. And so we're grateful for that. We're grateful for that highlight to be able to showcase and spotlight what it is that we're doing, because we believe in this work. It's very, very much needed work. And it's joyful work also for us.
Well, we are excited about it and would love to continue to support. So please keep the Washington Informer aware of what you're up to, and we'll keep a pulse on it so that we can continue to report on all the wonderful things that you're doing. And I just cannot thank you enough for your time. Denyce Graves, what an icon.
Oh,
Any final words? I guess my selfish question that maybe hopefully folks are also wondering, legendary artist, mother, wife, director, foundation owner, you wear all the hats.
it's true. I'm a
How do
super
you do
busy
it?
girl.
Yeah, how do you
Between
do it?
Yeah, between, singing, directing a lot now, and a lot of that work, my singing work, that's been 45 years on the stage already. So a lot of that is transitioning
How when you're
into,
35?
okay, exactly. Now a lot of that is transitioning into directing. I'm back at Washington Opera next season for the new production of Tremonisha, of Scott Joplin's Tremonisha. Very, very much looking forward to that. But also, the work that I'm doing as artistic advisor at the Chautauqua Music Festival, obviously running the foundation as founder and artistic director, that's a lot. Between my work at Juilliard and the Peabody Conservatory, again, a mother still, a wife still, and all of my cup runneth over is what I can say about that. But I am fed by the work that we're doing. It gives me so much energy. I'm so proud of the team of the Denyce Graves Foundation. They show up every day, hardworking people that bring their whole heart and their whole lived experience to this work, to the work that we're doing, and changing the lives and reshaping the landscape of the classical music industry. So I'm profoundly proud of the work that we're doing.
Well, we are incredibly proud and cheering you all on, and so thankful for your time today, and look forward to seeing Loving versus Virginia at the Virginia Opera
You
House.
will have not only an opportunity with Norfolk, Virginia, but there's another opportunity with Richmond, Virginia, and then again at George Mason University. So the show will travel, and then it goes in another season to Minnesota Opera. But we are hoping that once people come and see this, that this is something that they want to produce.
Absolutely. Well, you guys are starting a movement. Kudos to you, and congratulations, and thank you for all you do.
Thank you for this moment. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you. Well, I am just tingling with all of the pride and feel goods after that amazing interview with Denyce Graves. Now I'm wrapping it up and turning it over to one of the other Denises, who's a huge hero of mine, Denise Rolark Barnes, our amazing, fearless leader at the Washington Informer, who has a lot cooking up for you all this afternoon.
Thank you, Micha. And talking about a lot cooking up for everybody, I wanted to know about cooking with Denise. I feel like there's a piece of that story that I need to know, because now, while she's working on operas, and I can't wait. I really can't wait to see this. This is a story that talking about love stories, and that I've heard about the loving couple and all that they went through, but to see her interpretation of that story in opera would be great. But I still want to cook with Denise. But anyway, it's my pleasure now to bring on Dr. Frances Toni Murphy Draper. Welcome to Let's Talk, Toni. Dr. Draper.
And Toni is fine. Thank you, Denise, with an I. I really did enjoy that interview with Denyce Graves. So I'm glad I was able to listen in on that.
And I know you're proud because, we don't keep it a secret, because we do share staff from time to time. And I appreciate, all the mentoring you did with Micha when she was there with you at the Afro. And now she's here with us. And, we continue to do these things with, these young, talented writers. And so I know that was probably a proud moment for you as well.
It was, and you owe me.
All right, I'll work on that. This is my first opportunity here to share your story. One, not only about you and your family, but this book that took time to publish, and now that it's out, and it's such an inspiration, especially to the publishers, but there's so many others who have had an opportunity to purchase the book and to read through those prayers. Tell us, how, first of all, I want to know about the family legacy of the Afro. We just did our anniversary, and we talked about legacy. And I mentioned, actually, in a couple of shows, about the legacy of the Afro, 133 years?
Almost 133, 132 years, 133 in August. So first of all, congratulations to you on your 60th.
Thank you. We're the babies, though. We the teenagers compared to you all.
Most businesses don't last past the first 5 years, and so congratulations on that. So the Afro was founded in 1892 by my great-grandparents. I could spend all of the time that I have today talking about the founding of the Afro, but you would appreciate this, Denise. The $200 in venture capital, is what I call it, came from my great-grandmother, Martha. And she and her husband, John, had 10 children. He was 52 years old, had been enslaved, a sergeant in the Civil War. And I say he had the unmitigated gall at age 52 with $200 to start a newspaper when reportedly less than 2% of the Black population could read. They had 5 sons, 5 daughters. All of their sons came into the business with the caveat that every daughter received the same salary as the sons. And so we covered everything from that founding in the late 1800s all the way up to the present. And at one time, the Afro, who had his own printing press and employed a couple of hundred folk, union shop at that, had 13 editions up and down the East Coast. Now I tell people, they say, oh, wow, 13 editions. I said, well, now we have hundreds of editions because of technology, right?
Exactly.
We have thousands of stories. We are not a weekly publication. We are hourly publications, daily publications.
Well, I'm so proud to call you my sister publisher and to have the Afro as a sister publication and the work that you all continue to do. But I don't know how you had the time, to pull this book together and tell us about Carl Murphy, your grandfather, and just how you were able. Well, what even inspired you to publish this book?
Well, I had the privilege of actually knowing my grandfather, and I cannot take credit for the compilation of all of his prayers. It started long before me. My mother and her sisters started. Her older sister, Betty Moss, really started compiling the prayers maybe more than 50 years ago. But they were in like a mimeograph form, right? They called it a book. It wasn't a book for sale or for publication, because Carl Murphy wrote prayers on the back of envelopes. He wrote prayers on napkins. He wrote prayers for every occasion. He wrote prayers for family gatherings. He wrote prayers for birthdays and anniversaries. But he also wrote prayers about what was happening in the culture, what was happening in the civil rights movement at the time. And so his oldest daughter kind of pulled some of those prayers together. My mom came along, cut them all apart, and said, "Okay, we need to do some kind of book about that." And I was helping her at that time. She's cutting these apart. Now, she died in 2007. And she said, "Now, promise me one day you're going to get this book done." A book. I was curious, however, when so we had the prayers, as I said, they're cut up. She's trying to put them into different categories, right? So she makes all these copies,
Uh-huh.
and they're not electronic, by the way. These prayers were typed on they were handwritten,
Right.
typewriter, and they were never input right into any kind of electronic format. So that was tedious on her part. And I said, "Okay, Mom, I'm going to do this book." But I was curious about what may have prompted Carl Murphy to write the prayers. What was happening in the African American community and culture at the time? So, with the help of one of our archivists, researched our archives, and we're matching as best we can prayers with articles and photos from the Afro. Our Daily Bread loved the idea, and we produced the book. It was published in January of 2025. It took a couple of years. Well, it took a long time for me to say, "Okay, let's get it done," and then 2 or 3 years to actually get it done.
So the thing that's interesting to me too, Toni, is that now your family has produced preachers. You're one, Reverend Bishop Vashti McKenzie
Mhm.
is. But you produce lawyers. You produce a lot of other professions as well. But Carl Murphy wasn't a preacher, was he?
He was not an ordained preacher
Yeah.
Carl Murphy actually was a professor of German at Howard University. He's a Howard grad and a Harvard grad. And so
Wow.
he taught German at Howard, and on the weekends would go back to Baltimore to help his dad with the paper. He was the second youngest of 5 sons, and the one that his dad said, "If anything ever happens to me, I'd like for you to take over as the editor," because he would go and do the editing and help with the stories and all of that.
Hmm.
A sidebar, my grandmother, Vashti Turley Murphy, a co-founder of Delta Sigma Theta, was his student, 5 years his senior. So I have another book called No Ordinary Hookup that I published back in 2016 when I found their love letters, right?
Oh wow, yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. I mean, there's it's such a storied family and a storied and a history. It's just amazing. So, I mean, why prayers as opposed to just journal entries or whatever? What encouraged him or inspired him to
You know
write
what?
prayers?
He wrote such hard hitting editorials. You wouldn't think that he was also one that would write prayers, but he
Hmm.
was a man of great faith. He was a man who served his God. He served his church. He served his family. And when I reflect back on it, we did very little without prayer. I had no idea that he was writing these prayers, though.
Mm-hmm.
But he wrote prayers for everything. Um,
Wow.
of a child, the death of somebody, the changing of a season. W.E.B. Du Bois was his neighbor, and they didn't really get along. But when Du Bois died, he wrote a prayer. He wrote a prayer before the March on Washington. He wrote a prayer after the March on Washington. One time, Dwight Eisenhower gave a speech, I assume, and he called us his Negro citizens. So Carl Murphy writes a prayer that says, "Dear God, please tell Mr. Eisenhower we belong to you and not to him." So see, it's that kind of, it's those kinds of prayers that he wrote.
And having gone through those prayers and read them, and the whole exercise of putting together a book, what did you get out of that experience? How has it sort of informed your life, your message, your ministry, your journalism?
Okay, so let me back up just a little bit. I didn't say this. His dad, John Henry Murphy Sr., the founder of the Afro, said that a newspaper succeeds because it believes in God, in itself, and in the present generation.
Mm.
He was the superintendent of Sunday schools for the Hagerstown district of the AME Church. And his first publication was not the Afro. It was a publication called the Sunday School Helper. I put that in context because the family raised AME and then, became Episcopalian. So there's a deep spiritual foundation. Deep spiritual foundation that Carl Murphy grew up and then passed it on to his daughters. He had 5 daughters, no sons, and to his 16 grandchildren.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's my dad used to say that if the Rolarks had a family reunion, we could hold it in a bathroom, but that's definitely not the case for the Murphys. So
No. There are a lot. And all of his siblings didn't have children, but the
Yeah.
ones who did populated the family.
Yeah, yeah. So, where can people get copies of the book? How are you distributing it, or what's the cost? Tell us how we can access it.
So for the first time, this is actually my 3rd book. And I have a
Okay.
contract for the 4th one, but for the first time, I did not self-publish. So Our Daily Bread Ministries published this book. It's available wherever Christian books are sold. Amazon.com is easy. Look, it's hard to say which retailers now because we got to figure out which ones we are and which ones we're not. But anyway,
Right.
Christian, any place that Christian books are sold, Barnes and Noble, for example, they also will have the book. Now, it came when it was released in January. It was like on Amazon like $20, but I checked it out right before this show. I think there's a sale going on. I think people can get it for like $15, $16.
Oh, okay. All right.
Number. I'm not promoting Amazon because they've got their issues
Okay.
as well. You can get your free shipping. But yes,
Are
those
you
available.
you planning to do any book signings in the area anytime soon?
I am. So I'm gonna follow up with Mahogany Books. You and I talked a little bit about that.
Right.
Somebody recommended Busboy and Poets. I am doing. The Afro has its annual tea on the 26th, so the books will be available there. Also, some other things. When I say other things, I did a book signing at Asala,
Okay.
which was
Right.
successful as well. But I will let you know. And really, Denise, I thank you for your support. I don't know if your listeners and viewers know that we also are in business together. The Black press is alive and well. So, Word in Black. I know we're not talking about Word in Black today,
Yeah.
but
Well, we got to give it a shout out because
Word.
it's
I
our
hope you
business.
go to subscribe to the Washington Informer, subscribe to Afro News, it's afro.com. Subscribe to Word in Black. It's free, right? So wordinblack.com and just see what amazing journalism Black owned publications are doing across the country.
Before the 2 things before we go, and we can't have this discussion right now, but I would love to really talk a little bit more about how this DEI is impacting us in Black-owned media and probably other Hispanic media, LGBTQ media. I mean, we're all being affected by this, and I know that some folks have even challenged the Afro on its name in order to secure funding.
Yeah, they've challenged that. I'm waiting for them to put it in writing before we write a story, right? They challenge that. Here's one thing that I'm trying to be intentional about. we are acronym heavy, period. That's, everything is reduced to an acronym. So when I talk about it, I say, I put it in any kind of order. What part of inclusion is it that you're against, or equity? Help me understand what part of diversity is troublesome. Because you can reduce it to an acronym and dismiss us just by an acronym and not really dig deep behind what it means. So I can understand, what is it that people who say they are not for diversity, they're not for equity, they're not for inclusion. Okay, so what does that really mean?
Right. Good point. Toni, before you leave, do you have a brief prayer you can share with us from
I do.
Carl Murphy's book?
I absolutely have a brief prayer that I can share. So the chapters are alphabetical. So this chapter is called Gratitude. So it's one of my favorite. I've got a lot of favorite prayers, but this one is called from the chapter on gratitude. So let me check this prayer. Let me see if I can find it really quickly. This, if I knew my alphabet, then I wouldn't be looking under freedom for gratitude, would I? I would be okay. How about this?
Right. Okay,
Right.
all right.
So Carl Murphy wrote these words: "Oh dear God, help us to do the work of the world without bluster or brag or what we call tooting our horn. Let us remember that whatever comforts or material things we accumulate in life are only loaned to us for a season. And when we are inclined to talk of I and glory in me, help us to remember that thou hast put millions of planets, stars, and suns in orbit, and so far as we know, they make no sound. Amen."
Amen. Dr. Francis Toni Draper, thank you so very much for being with us, CEO of the Afro News. Congratulations on the book, Pen and Prayer, and I hope that our viewers will go and get a copy. Prayer and the Pen. I'm sorry, Prayer and Pen. I got it right that time.
Listen, I wanted to call it Pen and Prayer too. The publisher said prayer and pen, so you're in good. But thank you, thank you for this opportunity. I want to thank your viewers in advance for your support in this environment where people are banning books just for mentioning our accomplishments. We have to support our Black-owned publications and our Black-owned newspapers and books and our institutions. And I am encouraged, if my grandfather could write prayers, if they could do what they did 130 years ago, certainly we can survive these times and not be distracted and get off course.
So with that, I'm going to say farewell and amen.
All right. Amen. Thanks a lot. All right. See you soon.
All right. Thanks, Toni.
Bye.
Bye-bye. So, folks, I'm telling you, it's a wonderful book. It's a great gift, actually, as well. I mean, not only would you want to have your own copy, but I think it makes a great gift for people because they're, really, prayers that I think we can all relate to. And Carl Murphy did those prayers with the thought of his neighbors, his community, the country. And so it's a great publication. So I encourage you to get a copy and to get one for a friend, especially while they're on sale. So speaking of on sale, I wish I could say that there were properties on sale, but Carla Labat, president of the Washington Real Estate Brokers Association, is here to talk to us about Building Black Wealth, the Building Black Wealth Summit that's being held here tomorrow in the DMV. Carla, are you there? Okay. She'll be with us in just a few minutes, I'm sure. But anyway, yes, the Washington Real Estate Brokers Association will present their Building Black Wealth program. It'll be tomorrow, April 12th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. At the DC Housing, I'm trying to read this, DC Housing Finance Agency. There are chapters of NARAB, which is what the Washington Real Estate Brokers Association is a member of. It's a member of an organization called NARAB, the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, that are having programs throughout the country. I know that the DC chapter is having one. There's one in Prince George's. There's one in Montgomery County. Carla, you're there. I'm trying to tell your story, but you can tell it better than me. Welcome to Let's Talk.
Oh, thank you very much, Denise, for having me. And I so enjoyed, by the way, your first two guests. I mean, Denyce Graves, what a national treasure, and Toni Draper, what a legacy. I mean, that was tremendous. So what I have to say is, hopefully will be of interest as well.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
As you started to say, that tomorrow, actually April the 12th, the Washington Real Estate Brokers will be hosting in DC at DC Housing and Finance Agency, right there at 815 Florida Avenue, a day of education, information, and interactive conversation with the community. This free event is put together by the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. And as you mentioned before, we are the local DC chapter of that. And their goal is to inform the community about the advantages of home ownership and how you can become a homeowner. Lots of people have thought about it, but maybe they haven't taken that step. They're unsure how to do it. So that's why myself, along with other real estate professionals, will be there to answer any questions that one may have.
Carla, I think the timing is excellent for this because we're going through some crucial economic times right now. And I'm sure that you all in the real estate business, you all feel it more so than the rest of us because you're trying to sell houses and to a community that really needs to know more about home ownership, particularly during these stressful economic times. Mm-hmm. And so for those who, maybe just said at this moment, nah, I can't do that, what would you advise them?
I would advise them to start getting the information they need. So when they are ready, they will know exactly how to proceed and what would be best for themselves and their families. Believe it or not, there are opportunities. There is money. There are grants for qualified home buyers. Most of them are for first-time home buyers, but there are some monies through either lenders, through the government, believe it or not, that is available, but most people don't know about it. In fact, counties have money to give to home buyers. I don't have to tell you that wealth creation in the United States, and especially in the African American community, is through home ownership. According to our data, right now, there are over 2 million African American individuals and families in the United States who are qualified to buy a home but have not. And there are also over 1.9 million millennials that make six figures who also are qualified to purchase homes and have not. So there are a lot of opportunity. And the reason why they need to consider this is because there are tax advantages to owning a home. There is that peace of mind knowing that this is your place. And home ownership really gives you that. And plus, home ownership also for many, especially millennials, is an investment. The majority of my clients are young, Black, single women. And I tell them, this is your first home, not your last.
Well, I have to say, my mother sold real estate many years ago. So my first property was a condo. So that was my introduction into home ownership. But that statistic that you just shared about people who are eligible to or qualified to be, what qualifies them? Kind of give us the demographic of that group.
It is my understanding that, first of all, as I said, African American, they are gainfully employed. They have resources, but for whatever reason, they have not taken the steps to purchase. And I would also say that in qualifications has to do with credit. And so they are credit worthy as well. So these are some of the metrics that were determined that number. And so NARAB, National Association of Real Estate Brokers, with this day tomorrow, and by the way, we are just one of 100 chapters that will be having this event tomorrow. So this is a true movement to get the word out and to reach not just the ones that the stats that I just gave you, but everyone, to let them know that this is an opportunity you want to consider and this is how you can do it. So that's why we're there.
Yeah, I'm curious, Carla, because the Washington Informer produces a twice monthly newsletter called Our House, Keeping Homes Black Owned, or what we really want to talk about now is preserving Black home ownership. And, again, we're going through a stressful time right now. And so for those people who, maybe own, but are trying to figure out, what they should do if they feel like their home ownership is at risk. Is there anything that this conference will maybe advise them on with regards to how to maintain and secure their home during this moment in time?
Yes, so we will have a couple of advisors there that people can speak to. Just for example, right now I am speaking to a homeowner in a reverse mortgage situation that is challenging for them. So I put them in touch with one of our consultants and they are working that situation out. So we're not here just to sell houses. We are here to keep people in their homes.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. Wonderful. Because we had the perception that gentrification was a thing that was kicking Black folks out of their homes. And we realized there's so much more than that. That's the end result of the other issues that we face. But still more importantly, like you said, how do we get them into homes? And then for young people, when you talk about preparation for home ownership, particularly at this moment, can you just share one or two things that you think they'll get tomorrow, but that you would recommend that they do to prepare?
So it all starts off with knowing your buying power. And the way you do that is through first, what is your credit? Everything, I don't have to tell you, is determined on credit. So we're going to talk about how to get even better credit. So let's say your credit is between 620 and 680. Well, let's talk about how to push it over 700, because when your credit is at a certain level, the interest rate becomes more attractive to you. The loan options open up to you. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow. And then the next part, before you even go out to see a property or to call an agent, is to know your buying power. So we're going to have several lenders there as well as nonprofits that have grants for first-time home buyers. And so people will have the opportunity to speak with them one-on-one, because needless to say, everyone's situation is different. So the fact that we are going to be interactive there, and we're not just going to be talking heads telling you all this information, you walk away like, what did I just hear? You'll be able to actually sit down with people individually and ask them questions.
And for those who are really wanting to be a little bit more aggressive in their home ownership journey, are looking for investment properties or how to qualify to become investors in real estate, will there be topics there for them as well?
Absolutely. Our last topic of the day, which I believe starts about 1 o'clock, is with a very savvy local investor who owns property not just in the DC area, but across the United States. And so he's going to talk about how he got started and how you started, and start by investing in your own community, right in your backyard. You don't have to go outside. And there are, believe it or not, opportunities. I also have, believe it or not, available multi-unit properties that have been shared with me by various brokers that I'm going to be bringing that may apply to who's interested, and I'm going to share that information as well.
Wonderful. And, one of the things that we've been reading about before I let you go is, how individuals, friends, what have you, are coming together now to purchase together. And I'm sure there's some positives, but there's some other landmines you might be stepping on to make sure that you've got the right real estate partner. Will that be a part of a discussion as well?
I think we could certainly add that. And if anybody was to come and speak to me about it, again, we would talk about, are the people that you're going to become involved in owning real estate, people that you trust, that you know that their resources, that they have the resources to continue, because I don't have to tell you, those two right are become problematic. One person may fall on hard times, then it will be up to you or the other partners to carry the weight of that person, because if you are on the deed together, if you all have taken out a loan together or put your cash in whatever way that you're going to purchase it, you are all responsible for the upkeep of the property that you buy. So you want to make sure that those people are people you want to get in bed with, as they say.
Well, it sounds like, could be a great pajama party tomorrow at the conference.
Absolutely.
And
it is free. If I didn't say that, it is free. It's open to the community. So regardless of whatever level you are in your home search, stop on by. Absolutely.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, we're going to put the flyer up one more time, just to let folks know that it is tomorrow from 10 to 12. And the address again, if you can share that with us.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the address, like I said, is at the DC Housing and Finance Agency at 815 Florida Avenue Northwest. You could go ahead and take the Howard University Metro there if you like, or U Street Metro. We're between both of them.
Wonderful. Carla Labat, thank you so very much for being with us and for doing what you do to help to preserve Black wealth in the DMV. So we look forward to hopefully
Denise.
Show tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you,
All
Denise,
righty.
for continuing what you do. Absolutely. I appreciate it.
All righty. Talk soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So each of our guests not only shared their wisdom, but also extended an invitation to engage, to learn, and to act. So let's commit to honoring our past while crafting a future that uplifts every voice. Let's not sit around and talk about what they ought to do or you ought to do or what should be done, but let's take those steps and make it happen. This is the time that we're in right now, that we have to, as my daddy used to say, if it is to be, it is up to me, and let no one can save us, for us, but us. Let's get off the couch, move, let's do something, let's make it happen. We can get through these times. We have to be positive, assertive, and just believe. And with that, I'm going to say amen. Until next time, let's continue the conversations that matter, celebrate the legacies that shape us, and work toward a more equitable world for all. This is Denise Rolark Barnes. Thank you for joining us, and see you next week. Where did you come to get all